Hey folks, Stone Abroad here.
Stoner Spouse.
Just chilling. We're talking about what's going on with the legalization, quote unquote, of cannabis here in Ontario, and the ridiculousness that it has become.
Yeah, we've been following articles about this stuff for a little while now, but today's bit, which I won't read, the title it's on Vice.com. The title is Ontario just tabled a weed law that makes it almost impossible to blaze anywhere. Subtitle, what is even the point? And it's exactly what I think.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous now. They want to make it legal, right? It's going to be legal to buy weed, but only if you buy it from the province themselves.
The OCRC, Ontario Cannabis Retail Corporation.
And whoever it is they feel are safe enough to actually grow weed. Yeah. Which we don't know about that yet. We have no indication of what the regs are or who they're going to be buying from.
Grower-wise.
Grower-wise. Yeah. Production-wise. Mm-hmm. This light is just not right either. I don't know, guys. I know. I'm sorry. This sucks so much.
Well, we'll take care of this shit. It's okay. It's all right. Okay.
Let's see.
All right.
That's a little better.
Okay. All right. So yeah. Recreational pot users will only be allowed to consume in the privacy of their own home. Same goes for medical, really. They don't seem to indicate anything different. And they've the first I've heard of it, we knew it was going to be an issue, but the first we've heard of it is that there are going to be fines for breaking the rules.
Well, we knew they've announced that earlier in the week that there would be fines. But what I didn't catch was that there were going to be fines directed at landlords.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. At first, everybody knows that the cannabis fines will be pretty steep. First conviction, $1,000. Think about that. And then up to $5,000 on subsequent convictions.
Now, reality is when you're talking about the kind of money most people are talking about here, a business doing well could swallow that as the cost of doing business.
Oh yeah, but
it could be done.
But that's not what they're going to be doing to the dispensaries.
No. What they're going to be doing to the dispensaries is hitting them
$250,000, or imprisoned for 2 years.
Yeah. So basically, they're making it impossible for the dispensaries to do business.
Yeah.
Without technically making them illegal. No, actually though, because they're setting this. You have to buy it through the province, and
it's lazy. They don't want the headache of having to administrate all of those separate dispensaries, some of which would have to be shut down just because they aren't meeting required standards, whatever they're going to be.
Yeah, it's just they can't be arsed to handle enforcement. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. And so instead they're going to make it harder for police. They're going to make it harder for us end users. They're going to make it a damn near impossible for us medical users. I mean, really, what the fuck?
And everyone will just go back underground. It's too late. Everybody already knows there's good weed to be found in Canada.
The genie is out of the bottle, boys and girls. You cannot go back to that.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Now, I'm hearing that they're saying that they've tabled the law.
Okay, no, I think that's the way it was phrased here, but that's not... It doesn't mean what you think it means. No. It means this is what Ontario has put on the table as their proposal.
This is their offer.
Oh yeah, this is their offer.
This is their offer, is that we'll make it legal, but you can only buy it from us, and you can only use it in your own home. Which, let's see how long it lasts once the landlords get a hold of that one. And I mean, they said that you have to designate spaces in medical facilities for people to use it.
Yeah, old age homes, that kind of thing.
Which, hello, we tried that with cigarette smoking and it didn't work. And cannabis smoke is much more pungent than cigarette smoke, okay? That's not going to work at all. It never did. It won't work now. And that they can't force anyone to go into one of those spaces, much like they did when they started banning cigarettes. And that's fine, except you're talking about, for instance, a cancer patient in hospice care who can't hold the vape for themselves anymore and need pain relief.
Yeah, and no medical staff will be required to handle a patient's drug needs.
I mean, it's
slippery slope.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one. I mean, but, it's also, think about it in the context that we had this discussion not very long ago when we were talking about doctors refusing patients for having AIDS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you're talking about the medical profession, some slightly different things apply because, well, this is part of what going to the medical profession does. You're a caregiver, and that means you give people the care they need. Sometimes that's dangerous. But you can't force anyone into these conditions, I understand that. But you can also make it,
possible for a relative or someone to do it, a professional caregiver.
Or even if there's somebody there, hire someone who's not got a problem and can sit in the room and monitor these things with people. There are ways around that. But the ridiculous thing is that the easiest way to do it is to just not lock people up in a little box. I mean, I don't know what the fuck the province thinks they're thinking. This is clearly a system meant to make this as difficult as possible for everyone involved.
It's actually going to make it worse than it was before legalization.
Yeah.
It's just going to go back to the way it was, except it'll be instituted. It's the only people that will be able to use will basically be using in their own homes. Here's a clue, guys. We didn't need your permission to do that. What we need is your permission to do that in public when we need to take our fucking medicine.
Yeah, I mean, between my degenerative disc disease and the arthritis, I take my vaporizer with my trusty Arizer Ergos with me everywhere I go. Because if I walk more than 3 blocks down a shopping street to pick up a few things, my pain levels could go from 2 to 10 at any time. And you're telling me now that the only place I can take the medication that I need to relieve the pain, the stabbing pain in my back that is basically, I swear to Christ, it does feel like being stabbed in the back, is at home.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically forcing me to live as a shut-in now. Are we back to the point where we are going to force people with disabilities to shut in their homes and not leave? Isn't this what the Disabilities Acts were about? Are you going to put us back in our little cages now, Kathleen Wynne? Because if you want to put the gimps back in their little cages, we're going to have to fight you for that one.
As you can tell, my mate's in kind of a fussy mood today. Bad weather.
Bad weather makes me fucking cranky. That's why I need weed, because it relieves my pain and it makes me less bitchy.
It's necessary to understand we want drug legalization too. Cannabis legalization in Canada has been delayed for decades. We knew better than to do this, but of course the laws in other countries made it impossible for us to just put our drug laws away, or so it seemed. And now that we're finally going to give it a try with a government that sold us on the idea that they're more progressive than the progressives,
well,
we're watching as it rolls out, and we're finding that the old prejudices are still there. They're just hiding behind smiles.
I'm just loving that traditionally conservative territory in Canada are actually acting more liberal in this case than the so-called liberals. I mean, Alberta is classic conservative country, if I'm not mistaken, and they're going to regulate and legalize dispensaries. But the Liberal Party here in Canada, who are apparently so far from liberal that they really should consider changing their name, decided that, it's time for, I hate using the phrase nanny state. I really, really do, because I know it sounds fucking hysterical. But you're telling adults that you're going to regulate a substance that you're going to make perfectly legal, how they can access. Are we going to do aspirin next? Would you jump through these hoops for a bottle of Tylenol? And now somebody's going to say, oh, well, it's a different thing. No, actually, it's not.
Cannabis is not just a Tylenol. It's not just a single type of drug. It's a single plant genus, but it's a whole class of medications. Different strains do different things for different people. The science is still being done even as we speak, and the stuff that they're learning is alarming that considering we've had prohibition for a good 80 years.
I mean, all you have to do is Google search the news under cannabis, and you will come up with hundreds of studies are being published every week. I mean, right now, of course, they're all short, small-scale studies. But, it's like our clip from Bill Nye that we saw the other day was talking about it. It's like, well, we have the problem where in the United States, cannabis is a Schedule I drug. But all of these people, including myself, are using it and telling, the empirical evidence seems to be that this works for some reason. And so science goes to government and says, well, we want to test this. And they say, no, you can't test this because it's a Schedule I drug.
Koyaanisqatsi.
Hello?
No sense whatsoever.
Now, Canada is doing the exact same thing, only it's saying to those of us who are using this for medical purposes, and even for people who want to use it for recreational purposes, that, you can have this drug that you want, and it's 100% legal, except, we're going to not let you actually ever get at any of it or have anywhere to use it. So it will be legal, yes, for certain very extremely limited definitions of legal that apparently only the non-liberal party understands.
Okay, now we don't want to sound hysterical, so let's state a few things. First of all, we've been told that Hamilton will have one of the first stores that the province is going to permit to be built and operated under this new Ontario Cannabis Retail Corporation.
At last count, Hamilton had 35 dispensaries running in town under the tolerance of the Hamilton Police Department, shall we say.
Yes. There have been periodic raids and things, but there have been some rules that have been followed pretty carefully up till now.
And there have been dodgy dispensaries. There are one that, I literally walked into, watched someone sell to a person without checking their ID, who looked to me like they could be questionably underage, and I walked out and never went back again. To ones that I patronize regularly, such as Natural Green Healing here on King Street, who I love, and MMJ Canada, who
great selection, great staff, and a great environment.
As professional as you want to get. I think MMJ is setting the bar for how dispensaries should function. And I think, if Kathleen Wynne wants to look at a model, there it is. Yes. MJ, Clint is, he knows the drill. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to anybody, anytime.
If he isn't already, which I'm sure he is.
Which I'm sure he is. So, we have already established a system that works, that with very little oversight could be quickly and easily functioning for everybody involved. I don't know why the non-liberal government has chosen to go in this direction, and to my knowledge, I have not heard a single argument from them as to why they decided to do this instead of licensing dispensaries. I have heard no pros and cons. I don't know why they think to do this, and I do know one thing, is that it seems that most responses from the non-liberal party are about protecting the children. First of all, I hate, loathe, and despise politicians who use that kind of rabble-rousing hysteria about anything.
It's a cheap stunt.
It's a cheap shot. Mm-hmm. And frankly, if you're using it, you're not worthy of the name politician. Because that's backyard schoolroom bullying bullshit. But you can protect children without making something completely impossible for consenting adults to use. You've done it before. You're doing it now. Ontario is becoming less and less restrictive about alcohol, but for some reason, we're going to go back to the Stone Age for cannabis.
Okay. It's your first time doing this, Ontario. We get it. You're probably not going to get everything right off the hop. We understand that. We can accept a certain amount of bumpiness. But the face you're presenting us isn't a face of uncertainty. You're trying to convince us that you've already studied this issue, you've already gotten your consensus, you've already got your mandate, and what you're planning on doing is basically taking total control, trusting no one, and breaking down what we've already worked very hard to establish. Even us people on the customer side of things, as a consumer, we've had to do our own research. We've had to find out for ourselves what are acceptable strains that actually help us with our medical conditions, what strains are actually most effective for our mental health issues, and what strains are actually, to be perfectly blunt, which strains are actually nice to use. Because we've discovered that there are strains out there that are supposedly good medicine, but they're so horrible to ingest in any form that it feels like what
Stoner
Broad said earlier.
You guys have seen punishment. The videos. You saw the video, I'm sure.
We'll include a link down below if you've forgotten. But the thing is, it is punishment, and it's classist bullcrap. It's very clear that you feel like this is an onerous task, and you're going to cut as many people out of the decision-making process as possible so you can quickly implement this thing, say you did your due diligence, wipe your hands of it, and when it inevitably fails to do any of the things that cannabis legalization has been proven to do for governments around the world, you will blame us, you will say we did it wrong, and you will deny your own responsibility in this issue. We already see it coming, but we need a system that works.
And what we need to have happen at this point is fairly fucking simple. All the provinces need to do is set up a simple licensing and inspection program. Not too much different from what we already have in place for restaurant establishments that sell food, or for agricultural establishments that grow produce.
Mm-hmm. In fact, it's a lot of the same skills.
All you have to do, license and inspection. That's something that is going to make life It's going to minimize costs, first of all, of government, which, of course, by the way, thank you, Mr. Trudeau, for dumping all of this onto the provincial governments who are already broke as fuck. Yay. Because of this is why we're having to deal with this nonsense, first of all. But second of all, if you just regulate the establishments that have grown up organically in the past year, you will have a robust and functioning system. There is no need to bottleneck use of this substance at all. All it is punishing users, which we've been doing for a fucking century and has done zero good for anybody. So let's stop playing games. Take this offer of yours and cram it where the sun doesn't shine, because nobody wants it, and I do mean nobody. And come back to the table with a reasonable response that includes simple licensing and inspections with levels based on the size of the establishments in question. We charge if we've got somebody who's doing small craft grows, they pay in this bracket. If you've got somebody like Tweed who's mass producing some really, really interesting stuff, fine, nail them up here. You make it a per capita? Is that the right word?
Sort of. I mean, that's basically how the ratio would break down, but it would be a sliding scale.
Yeah. I mean, this is not that hard. You're creating jobs because you're creating inspections.
You know, I don't even mind the idea of them setting up an LCBO shop and things like that, getting into the market if they really want to.
No.
I don't have an objection to that specifically.
But they should compete on the open market with everybody else instead of trying to form a monopoly.
Right. And that's the problem. We don't have the same kind of anti-monopoly laws that were developed in the States for these reasons.
Sorry, cat interruption.
Cat has arrived.
Yeah.
The baby cat.
But anyway, that's, I think, enough of a rant at this point.
Yeah.
And I just, wanted to say that exactly this is just everyone involved here is an adult. Excuse the cat. We want to be treated like adults and not like children.
Mm-hmm.
And all this is doing is making the system overly complex and ridiculously expensive. Come back to the table with a reasonable offer, because this is not reasonable. And for everybody else in the community, get up, get out, protest, please, make yourselves heard. Because, everybody's just willing to shove this under the carpet, and it's going to be us who are paying for it long term if we do. So call your local representatives, talk to your provincial people here in Ontario, get under people's skins, get annoying, get loud, because otherwise you're going to be paying for this for the next 30, 40 years, because this won't change once they get it set.
Yeah, it'll take years and years to get it tweaked to the point where it actually does what it's supposed to.
I mean, really, Ontario is only just now allowing beer and wine to be sold in stores outside of the their liquor monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. Anyway, Stone and Broad signing off because we're going really long here. Cheers from us here in Limbo. And
stand up for your rights.
And insert your catchphrase right here every time.